Good evening. I'd like to call to order the advertised and stated monthly meeting November 14, 2023 of the Lower Moreland Township Board of Commissioners. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start the agenda with internal affairs. Under item A, review and consider minutes of October 10th, 2023. Any of the commissioners have any comments or corrections to the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 10th, 2023.
Second.
There's been motion and second to approve the minutes of October 10th, 2023. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item B, review and consider November 2023 bill list. Any of the commissioners have any comments about the bill list?
Yes, EJ did a great job in the summary. It does highlight all of them.
Any comments from the public? Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the November 2023 bill list.
Second.
Is a motion to approve the November 2023 bill list. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I'm sorry, but they didn't get the summary this month. No one, the public didn't get the summary this month, is that right, or no?
I don't know, is that not on the website?
It was, I checked this morning.
It was, okay, I apologize, I misinformed.
Okay. Under item C, review and consider proposed 2024 budget. I'm going to ask Manager Hoffman to give the executive summary before the board votes to advertise the 2024 budget.
All right, I'm going to make note of the emphasis you put on executive summary. So to try not to spend too much time on this, but give everybody a sufficient basis for what are the items in front of the board this evening. So what I wanted to do is just break down a list of things that the budget is able to accomplish across several funds that are all fine at our current tax levels. And then there are three kind of strategic items all related to public safety where the decisions and any change from 2023 into 2024 would be recommended. So in no particular order, just at current funding levels, here's a variety of things that this budget is going to accomplish. So for all staff-related costs, this includes all salaries, benefits, collective bargaining agreement details, since the overwhelming majority of our staff are represented, as well as any individual employment agreements for any management level staff. It covers all of our costs related to our more complex IT services that we've had a chance to talk about recently. It accommodates all professional services fees for legal, engineering, and planning, all of our consultants. It invests in technology for all of our departments. So there's things across public works, the police department, code, that are all making investments for our staff to be able to have certain tools to be able to do their jobs more efficiently. There's three kind of bigger strategic things that are new, but can all be accomplished at current tax levels. The first is that a second school resource officer is added to the budget effective July 1st, 2024. And then the next one, and we've referenced this kind of all throughout this year, but now with everybody actually sitting here in the back, it continues to build out our code department. So we're excited to have both Ted and Jill here this evening, because upon Bob's retirement, they will be kind of dually taking over each of those roles. So we'll have the kind of the formality of that, but with those items included in the budget, to have them here this evening. And then also from a public works perspective, I guess giving a shot for the first time of just given the challenges with hiring part-time staff, seeking a contract for mowing in our rights of way areas as well as our parks. So there's allocations within the general fund and the Parks and Recreation budgets for those items. As always, our budget prepares for winter, even if it doesn't actually happen on the scale that it could. So all of the costs associated with plowing and salt, and thankfully carrying over from 2023 with a full salt shed. We continue to cover the cost for all of our public infrastructure utilities. That's all of our traffic and streetlights, all of that existing infrastructure and things that have been updated over time. It provides for all of the fleet-related expenses across all of our departments, including regular maintenance and even though a bit lower than we project, is still relatively historic highs for fuel costs. It covers all of the township's property and liability and compensation insurances. We continue to invest in capital equipment and projects and pedestrian infrastructure across all of our departments and all across town. From the trash fund, it will continue to pay for our single hauler trash and recycling programs, as well as the other no cost added programs that are all a part of that current $350 annual level. We continue to cover all of our annual debt service obligations from different large capital building projects that we have done over the years. It funds the entirety of the request for operating the Huntingdon Valley Library. It operates the sanitary sewer system and continues to invest in the infrastructure of longevity, and that is to be done at current rate levels, which I'm comfortable projecting over the next 5 years will not need to increase. We also continue to provide for parks and athletic facilities while preparing for future facility needs. Across several funds, we leverage private development fees to invest in intersections and traffic signals and other major projects around town that otherwise would not have funding sources. We continue to plan for our stormwater system requirements and future projects at the rate that was set of $70 per quarter for our newly established stormwater fund. Later on this agenda, we'll actually have the first major funding allocation for a portion of that Longview Drive Basin project. So we're looking forward to getting more projects of that nature underway. We continue to pave roads utilizing 100% of our state liquid fuels allocation, which is a relatively recent policy that the board had implemented. And then we also cover our contractual other post-employment benefits obligations, as well as self-insuring unemployment exposure. So all of those things that are so much of what the township's overall operation is can all be funded at the levels of tax rates that exist today. So then looking ahead to 2024, there are a couple of items where our staff through the proposed budget and then through the board's 2 budget discussions over the last few weeks, we do need to make recommendations about adjusting and increasing millage levels there. So the first one, and the simplest of the 3, is in our fire hydrant fund. The board started a policy 10 years ago to deficit spend to utilize a kind of unnecessary fund balance that had accrued over the years. That policy is no longer going to be sustainable after 2025. But by addressing it now, we can do a slightly lesser increase. So that would consider looking at the current millage that is 0.063 mils, increasing that to 0.082 mils. And on the average assessed home in Lower Moreland of $210,000, that would cost $3.99 per year. The second one is within our fire fund. And there's 4 budgetary kind of major considerations that we look at there, in addition to funding the Chief of Emergency Services position. And for each of these items, I wanted to look at, as for all of our funds, at a 5-year projection to make sure that at a kind of our current program rates or certain increases that are being requested, that we, at a funding level that could be set, that those can comfortably be funded for that period of time. So the first is the operations contribution to the Huntingdon Valley Fire Company. The budget includes full funding of that request. The second is the fireside contribution to the Bernathen Fire Company. They've requested $64,000. This budget recommends that the board continue to fund 50% of that amount, as we've done for the last 2 years. The next is for the shift program at Huntingdon Valley. They have requested adding 1 daily shift and increasing the daily shift stipend amount from $100 to $125. So that is included. And then a major item is increasing the annual capital contribution from $50,000 to $150,000. So to accomplish each of those items, that requires increasing the millage from 0.49 to 0.66 mils. And again, on the average assessed home in Lower Moreland, that would cost $35.70 more per year. The final recommended item is related to the ambulance and EMS fund. So the current funding level that the board provides for an annual contribution to Bernathen Fire Company for ambulance service is $90,000. The Bernathen Fire Company requested consideration of adding a second ambulance for 12 hours per day. And kind of breaking down their call data, assigned 80% of that new cost to Lower Moreland and 20% of that new cost to Bernathen. So for that additional amount, or I guess of that additional amount, $175,000 they would apply to the Lower Moreland side. So Chief Showmaker and I are recommending that the board consider increasing that contribution rate from $90,000 to $200,000, which would allow them to beginning the program while also giving some consideration for Bernathen Fire Company looking at their own cash reserves and other possible billing revenues to see really how that program would play out as it would be implemented. But as the discussion continued at particularly at last week's budget meeting, there was discussion around preparing the tax for the full $265,000 request, but withholding that balance between $265,000, so $65,000, holding that in a capital reserve that could be tapped in the future for certain capital needs if the program itself was something that was successful and we wanted to continue funding, but needed more of a kind of annual revenue investment compared to utilization of cash on hand. Collecting $265,000 would give the board far more flexibility to review how that is playing out and kind of make adjustments to that without having to figure out an additional revenue that otherwise would not exist. So overall, to get to that $265,000 funding level, this requires an increase of the millage from 0.087 to 0.24 mils, which would cost an average of $32.13 per year. And the difference between that original kind of recommendation of $200,000 and basing the revenue off of that and the $265,000, it's approximately a $12 per year consideration. So overall, for those three items, that would propose a total tax increase of 0.342 mils and would cost $71.82 on the average assessed home. There are many homes that are assessed below that $210,000 level. So we try to find kind of a sweet spot to determine what the expectation should be. So obviously I want to turn this over for discussion by the board, but the two just action items for this evening. The first is that we would request the board authorize advertising the budget ordinance. So that's the first one that is attached following my memo. And then with advertising that, then that would come back to the board for consideration at the December meeting. And this ordinance essentially breaks down kind of how we overall prepare the budget, where you have your total cash balance at the beginning of the year. So we project what that would be, what the revenues expected for that year would be. And as long as those two added together are more than the expense allocation, we have a balanced budget. So that's what this draft ordinance proposes. From what is in your book, I need to make one minor change to the capital fund because today we did learn of a revenue associated with our credit card rewards that we tried to maximize. We deposit those funds, it's $13,000, but we deposit those funds into the capital fund and apply that to the IT capital reserve. So any of the ongoing server upgrade costs and major IT exposure that we have, we fund with that allocation. So I would revise this draft ordinance just to incorporate that amount. So that's item number one. And then the second item, which is several pages later in your agenda packet, is resolution number 23-24, which is a resolution adopting this budget. So those are the action items for this evening. And with that, I would turn it back over to Commissioner SIRKEN.
Thank you, Manager Hoffman. Just to remind the public, we did have three public meetings, including the community members and two budget meetings. Any comments or questions from the commissioners before I take it to the vote?
I'd like to thank Chris and all the staff for all their hard effort with this. It was definitely an interesting process, and I'm impressed every year. It's simplified by the way you guys do it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any comments from the public? Sir, come on up, give your name, address for the record. Thank you.
Jim Smith, 2472 Dale Road, Suffolk, Maine. I have a question on the budget for Bernathen EMS. Did we take into consideration the fund driving money that they get each year? And also the insurance money that they receive from going on calls to households in the township of Lower Moreland, Brent Anthony, you also do outside of our community also, correct? So was all that money funded in before we came up with this final number for Lower Moreland?
So a lot of those funds were, the one projection that is still a wild card is what that second truck would be able to capture.
Right,
While its own status, we're serving the community due to the hopefully increase in scratch volume. But this is more of a pilot program to see what will happen over that course year with that second truck.
so the second truck's a pilot program, then, correct? It's not gonna be permanent, or is it?
We're hoping it will be, but it's all based on the call volume and seeing what it's designated for. Right now,
So can I ask, talk to Joe? Do you see an increase in call volume
yes,
and where?
throughout the township.
Throughout the township,
Yep,
households or assisted living homes?
both. Assisted living is definitely increased as well, and we have an aging population in the community.
Yeah.
We have an aging population.
Oh, yeah, I know, it's 60-40 with the school, I get that, yeah. But we haven't taken none of that into consideration in the fund driving yet,
No, I'm
or,
saying we have.
oh, you have?
Yes.
And you still needed this amount of money to,
That's what Bernathen suggested in saying what they need to provide that second truck, yes.
this 200,000, 65,000 into a reserve.
They
capital fund.
requested 265, we're proposing funding at the 200, we have any reserve for if needed.
The 65,000 in
Yeah.
reserve if needed. And the 200,000 is for the new EMT wagon?
No, not
No.
for the, it's for primarily personnel, as you know, Chuck, personnel.
Oh, I
is the
really,
number
yeah,
one
I
cost.
get it. Yeah, I just
So it's
wondered,
90 at the current amount, and then an additional 110.
Yes.
so if we take into consideration the fund drive, which envelopes went out this past month for, and the insurance for each of the household that you're charging, that has also went up, correct?
I'm sorry, I missed your.
The ambulance service insurance fee that they charge, that the insurance pays, that went up also, that the
Not
insurance.
significantly, the average cost reimbursement per transport's about $450.
450, it was 400, right?
That's about 6 years ago, yeah.
Right, so it's been, okay, so they did increase, not a lot of
But
money, but
not
they
to
increased.
cover the operating cost. And the
Okay.
cost of personnel, it's not keeping up.
So do you see if your funding drive increases also, do you think that will decrease the amount that you're asking for?
So I don't represent Bernathen while I'm sitting here.
No.
You know, I'm a member up there, absolutely,
Right.
and I have no problem saying that. With that being said, the donations have actually been going down in the years, not.
Okay. All right, yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Then I would like to make a motion to authorize the advertising the 2024 tax levy ordinance.
Second.
It has been motioned and second to authorize the advertising of the 2024 tax levy ordinance. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, I would like to make a motion to approve resolution number 23-24 adopting the 2024 budget.
Second.
It's been motioned and second to approve resolution number 23-24 adopting the 2024 budget. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item D, review and consider chief of police employment agreement. Should we have the chief leave? No, I guess we can. Want to get on his bad side. Manager, how we do give the executive summary of what the employment agreement of the chief of police will be.
Yes, so just actually, the chief had brought this to my attention a couple months ago, that his original 5-year employment agreement was coming due at the end of this year. So I took a look at the original language in that agreement, and we just made some very minor changes to have this reflect beginning in January of 2024. I think the only kind of 2 items that are really worth highlighting. The term for this one is different because Chief Scarrato is in the drop program. So rather than put in a kind of standard 5-year agreement like we would do for this position, it just acknowledges that final day of his drop eligibility. And then the second is that since this agreement was originally done, there are now 11 observed holidays rather than 10. So I just updated to include that. Otherwise, everything is consistent out of this agreement with what was just approved within the 2024 budget with salary and benefits and things of that nature.
Just to clarify that the end date doesn't mean that he's out of here on May 31st, 2000.
Unfortunately, I will be helping him pack his office on that. So, without getting into, I guess, too much of the particulars of that, when any police officer enters the drop program, what that does is that the pension plan considers them retired and sets aside the payments for that pension into a side account that gets paid out after a maximum of 48 months in the program. So when an officer enters drop, it commits them to an absolute final date of employment. It's possible, though, that they could choose to leave at any point prior to that date. But that sadly, May 31st of 2026 date would be the last possible day that Chief Scarrato would work here. By his own decision.
Any other questions from the board?
What's the holiday we got out of here? Can I get it?
The last round of collective bargaining agreements added Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
Any questions from the public? Then I would like to make a motion to approve Chief Scarrato's employment agreement as described effective January 1st, 2024.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve Chief Scarrato's employment agreement as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item E, review and consider TD Bank signatures for the LMPD evidence account. That's item E. And my understanding is that it's just a sort of a way of trying to keep things in one place and accounted for. You want to add anything more to that, Manager Hoffman?
No, so it's just from an evidence perspective, as the department is seeking accreditation, having the kind of best practice would be to establish a bank account that does not have any interest associated with it for any monies that would be, I guess, part of the evidence gathering. So the resolution would establish that account and have EJ and me as the signers for it.
Great. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? So a simple motion then?
Yep.
I'd like a motion to approve the TD Bank account signatures for the LMPD evidence accounts.
Second.
And real quick, sorry, I should not have answered yes. So that is a motion for a resolution, which is number 23-25. We'll put that resolution number on top of the TD Bank form.
Okay. So as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
There's been motion and second to approve the resolution. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Under item F, administration report, Manager Hoffman, you want to give highlights for the month?
I'm feeling like I've talked enough for this meeting, so the only couple of things that I do want to add are that our back row are going to be the group that are responsible for getting the school district to their finish line for the high school project.
No pressure.
No pressure on anyone. But we've tried to maintain consistent communication with the district as to what are the outstanding items for them to be able to get to the point of the township issuing its occupancy certificate. There will be some temporary conditions placed on it when it's done. They are going to do their PennDOT HOP improvements the following summer after the initial occupancy starts. But overall, they're just working on getting things to that finish point so that they can get to that occupancy and have students begin there in February. So best of luck on that task. And then the final item that I just wanted to, I guess, give some discussion about and led by Engineer Woodrow. If you could just give a little bit of feedback on what we've been talking about recently with blasting at Philmont Country Club and some of public feedback we've gotten on some of the misconceptions.
So we knew when the plans came in that there was a fair amount of rock, especially in the upper parallel of Pine Road area of the project. We knew there's a lot of grading to take place in that area, some deeper utilities and some drainage work that needed to take place. And so they came to us, the contractors, that is early in the project, and said that they will probably need to do some blasting in that area. So we were aware of that need early on. Certainly, we believe that blasting is a better alternative than hammering that rock with a pick and a backhoe. That would be an all day constant hammering at rock. And that is certainly interrupts the quiet enjoyment of the neighborhood for sure. But the blasting itself certainly has, it's present, and you hear it, you feel it, and it is shocking if you're not prepared for it. So we've been working as closely as we can with the blasting contractor. The foreman for the project is very outreaching and very willing to talk to anyone who has a concern. We were on site yesterday afternoon for one of the shots. They had a seismograph set up at one of the homes on Oak that had some initial concerns about blasts. The seismograph reports come back showing a very insignificant frequency of shaking. Certainly well within the state mandates for that vibration that is transmitted across the valley. We've had some calls from other adjacent neighbors. We've got a conversation kind of ongoing with an individual over on Woodland. I think Ted is actually going to be around tomorrow afternoon to be with that resident when the shot is taken at about 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And we will have a seismograph there as well, just to give some level of comfort that what is being experienced is out of the ordinary, but not damaging. One of the things that we're able to do going forward is that we're getting a regular schedule of these blasting activities, being notified like 48 hours in advance. And what I'd like to do is start to get a list of those concerned neighbors who would want to be notified of that blasting activity. So we can send them a little note, let them know that, hey, Wednesday afternoon at around 3 o'clock, there's going to be a shot. What the contractor typically does, he will drill today. He will go out tomorrow morning and load the chemicals in each of the holes, set up the blasting caps, be prepared for then the active shot later in the afternoon. They do set off 3 kind of airborne blasts about 5 minutes before the blast is to occur, mostly to notify contractors working in the area, other excavators, other workmen who might be anywhere near that blast, to clear the area. They do a visual observation, they make sure the area is clear. They do one final blast just prior to the shot. Shot is taken, there is some disruption, but then they begin the process of cleaning up right after that. So it is something that we're very aware of, it's something we're paying close attention to, and certainly something that is pretty closely regulated by the state fire marshal. And certainly they appear to be in accordance with all those regulations that are in place. So I think big thing going forward is that we will try to reach out to everyone who has reached out to us, let them know and be aware of about when that shot will be taken.
Can I ask you a question about the science of measuring it? Is it one point or is it multiple points they're measuring it?
They measure at the property line for sure, and I think 2 or 3 places done. But then if there's folks of having some concern, then they will go out and put a seismograph at a location where people feel that there may be a rod vein that is causing a transmission of that vibration that might be different than what they're experiencing other places on the property.
Thank you.
My board did not anticipate hearing it so loudly. It's that whole being in the bottom of the bowl thing. So I fielded a lot of phone calls and I'll get you a list.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting. I don't know the science of the blasting, but it seems that some days they are, a more minor area they're blasting, and other days it's a larger area with more explosive. So not every day is the same, but certainly all appear to be within regulation.
So last night was not their first time blasting?
No,
When we say last night, do they blast at night?
no.
It was late afternoon,
Yeah,
early evening.
around 3:30 was the bigger shot yesterday afternoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were 6 that we heard, or 5, I think it's 5. 5 different sounds that we heard.
Huh,
Are you talking about the explosions with the different? Yeah, I was over in that area. There was fireworks going off.
There were fireworks going on.
Yeah, yesterday around 6 o'clock, 5:30.
Yeah.
Not related. I saw it on Facebook too, and I was
Yeah.
laughing because I was driving through there.
Yeah.
Well, it's not it.
Where were they?
Around Welsh and Valley, back in that area.
Okay.
If
It
it's
did
the
not
same
sound,
thing,
yeah, it didn't sound like typical fireworks. I was outside and heard them. And
they sounded big.
They
Yeah.
said.
They were bright.
Alright,
Any other,
I can, you know what, Ruth, here's what. I think this is enough.
yeah, we don't hear that.
That was one of the shots that took place yesterday, about 3:15.
No, ours were much later in the evening.
That was like, look at that, reverb. Yeah.
There we go.
anything else, Manager Hoffman, for your highlights?
No, thank you.
Okay. Assistant Manager Lee.
The only thing I wanted to highlight is that our 2022 audit is finally complete and our financial statements have been submitted to financial institutions as required. And just in time to do the 2023 audit. And planning commission, there is no planning commission meeting for November. There doesn't look like there's gonna be anything for December, but we will notify everyone.
Thank you. Under item G, tax collectors report, and we have our elected tax collector on the Zoom call. Ms. Sal?
Thank you, Dr. Sirkin. For the face collections for the township portion we're at 97.43%. Actual collections, which includes penalties and discounts, we're at 95.73%. And the outstanding balance for township taxes is $153,930. And the outstanding trash is $29,400. So hopefully we will collect a good portion of that between now and December 31st.
Any questions from the board for the tax collector? Anything from the public? And hearing none, I'd like to request that the tax collector's report be accepted as submitted. And under item H, liaison reports, I continue to attend the school board of directors meetings, and there has been no civil service meeting since last week. And that completes internal affairs. The chair now recognizes Commissioner KURITZ, Chair of the Community Development Committee.
Thank you, Chairman Dr. SIRKEN. First item on my agenda is review and consider the escrow release. It's for toll PA XID Stone Mill at Huntingdon Valley. It's number 1602. This is for escrow release number 12. It's in the amount of $127,337.50. So Tim Woodrow, our engineer, highlighted all the progress that has been going on at the stone mill development. My dog Zev and I drove over there, and it actually looks amazing. I was telling Tim all the work that they did for the 127,000 and some. They put in some shrubs. They paved. The asphalt paving looks amazing, and they did some striping. And it looks really beautiful, really finished off the whole development. It's probably the first time I've driven through the entire development instead of walking since we really, it really looks amazing. And so, and the whole board, if you have a chance, go over there and take a look, because what it looked like, it was like a rough paving. So it really looks great, and the homes look great, everything looks great. And I did notice the pump station, so that looks really nice too. So I'll just highlight everything for everyone. The total escrow for the project began at $685,008.25. So Tim previously recommended releases totaling $3,126,030, which the board has authorized at previous meetings. This escrow release 12 was for the $127,337.50, which leaves a balance of $347,500.75. So as Tim and Chris and EJ highlight in their reports that, final, they're not gonna be offering dedication before the end of this year, next month, or probably sometime in 2024. And the only thing looks like left on their list is probably some pump. The
Yeah,
pump
they've got some
station
administrative things to do. Yeah, they've got to close out their PennDOT permit, close out their DEP permit. Provide us with SMAS builds, there's some miscellaneous stuff like that, but then it's the needed dedication and some administrative.
We'll dedicate the roads and possibly give them back.
Yeah,
They're,
they've got to post an 18-month
yeah.
maintenance bond, so 50% of that 3 million has to be posted for 18 months of maintenance bond.
So we'll hang on to that,
Yes, okay.
and then, that development will be wrapped up, so that's about it for that. Does anyone have any questions on our board regarding the development?
So what will
And what about this?
what will the final 18-month hold be about? How much money? Will that be,
Yeah, so we're about $450,000, yes, but in the form of a bond versus a letter of credit.
separate than the escrow money?
Correct.
Mhm.
They would typically, Doc, replace the tri-party agreement, letter of credit, whatever is holding security on the project with a maintenance bond, which is, far less cost to that, but the bonding company obviously stands behind the value. If in the event, the things that could occur is we could see some trench settlement, concrete curb or sidewalk begins to degrade. You might get a problem with the pump station. And so if that were to occur within this 18-month maintenance period, toll would be obligated to repair. One of the nice things about toll taking so long to get to this point is that everything's been in place for a while now. And so if defects were going to reveal themselves, they probably would have done something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else on board? Any questions from the public?
Wait, I wanted to ask one good thing. The sanitary sewer that they put in. I forget the name of the plant. Is it working up to snuff now?
Yeah, yeah, so we took the contract to maintain it until it gets deeded to us. So our guys have got a pretty good feel for running it, and as Tim said, working out some of the kinks, and we have a whole punch list of things that CKS has to go through, or sewer engineer to, before it would be dedicated.
And just to clarify, like the specific things that we're talking about, so Toll built a pump station. Which is a facility that will be dedicated to us, we will then own. So we've had a contract with Toll that we've been maintaining, or we've been operating it this time. That pump station pumps to the Chapel Hill plant.
Yeah.
So when this development was considered, we had to confirm there was sufficient capacity at the treatment plant. Say compared to a lot of developments that end up flowing through to Beth Ayres and go to Philadelphia, this one is treated in Lower Moreland.
I just wanted to make sure that everything was going all right. It wasn't putting undue pressure on the check.
No.
Great. Thank you.
Any questions from anyone in the public? Any questions from anyone on Zoom? Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the escrow release number 11 in the amount of $127,337.50.
Second.
Is there a motion and second to approve the escrow release as described? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on my agenda is the building officials report. We had 57 permits that were issued for the month of October, 53 residential and 4 commercial permits, totaling $17,251. As everyone can see, things have been dropping off the last few months. We had 610 total permits year to date in the amount of $116,254. 716 total permits last year to date in the amount of $344,010. Under certificates of occupancy, we had 4 business UNOs and 7 residential construction UNOs. Under inspections by type, which is building, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, right away, stormwater management, and zoning. We had 113 with 92 residential, 21 commercial, and 57 permits. That's about it for the building officials report. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? And we have so many officials here. If you do have any questions.
I have just one question that, you know, I've had before. Some of these people say that they're, like, this guy's replacing his driveway. Replace the driveway area on Pedders Mill Road, and he put down the job value is $1. Does that affect the amount of fees we collect?
No, it does not.
Okay, so no matter how much it costs, it would still be a $40.
We get a lot of people that put down $1.
Yeah.
It's a placeholder.
It's a placeholder. I just, you know, we all know now that pools cost at minimum $40,000. And almost nobody in Moreland gets a pool for less than that. So if somebody puts in that they're building a pool for $10,000, do we do anything about that?
Swimming pool costs $10,000, did you say?
Yeah, well, if that's what they put in their application.
That's a fair and reasonable.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions by the public, from the public? Any questions from anyone on Zoom? If not, I'll accept all these reports as submitted, and thank you to all our officials. My liaison report is next. My positions are the Planning Commission, Community Events, and Moreland Township School District DEI, which is renamed, but we'll still keep calling it DEI. It's culturally relevant, sustaining education. The Planning Commission, as EJ advised, there are to date no November or December meetings, but if any, if we do have any, we will let everyone know. The Planning Commission members, Board of Commissioner members, and also post it on our website and Facebook pages. Under community events, we thank Leah always, and our public works, and our adult volunteers, and our student volunteers for all their help. Our trunk or treat, our open house, and our Halloween decorating tour were great, and the residents loved them. They were well received and well attended. So we thank everyone, all the commissioners and the community that attended and came to. Leah and I are working on next year's events already for 2024, the spring events, which will include our Earth Day event, tree planting, egg hunt, Martin Luther King Day event, and we're also trying to schedule the Pine Road second grade township tour. So that's what we're working on. And if anybody else has any other feedback or wants to help, join in. But we thank Leah very much for all her help. Next is the Moreland Township School District DEI CRSE. We had our meeting last night with Carla Passiti, and she's a supervisor of curriculum and community engagement. Was at the school district last night from 6 to 8 at Murray Avenue. And what we did this year was the school district sent out a new belonging survey, and we compared last year's with this year's, and all the numbers from the survey came back, the scores came back higher in a lot of areas as to asking the students how they felt in the district, which is really good. There was one area that came back a little bit lower. So I have a high regard for the school and the administrative workers that they put in place to try to put equity, inclusion, and diversity into our school district. And Ms. Bassidi is continuing the work from the other two administrators this year, bringing workshops and community team building with the administration and the students in all 3 buildings. And that's the mission of the school, is to continue with the equity, inclusion, and belonging in the district. with regard to the Pennsylvania Department of Education guidelines. So I think she's doing a great job. And we broke up into teams, 3 groups, and it's really a great group, a bunch of wonderful community members, parents, and administration. So we have another meeting January 22nd, 2024, and there's another, I think there's 4 or 5 more meetings. The district, I didn't mention that last month, but they put a calendar together, and I think they have they incorporated holidays, cultures, about 40 to 60 different celebrations. So it's on the school district website, and they've been doing some real amazing work to make the kids really feel belonging, together and included. So that concludes my agenda for this evening. Thank you, Dr. SIRKEN.
Thank you, Commissioner Kearns. The chair now is Commissioner Pace, Chair of the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Doc. Item L, review and consider Longview Drive Basin platform bid. The bid opening for Longview Drive Basin platform occurred November 13th. As the platform provides a very specific function called continuous monitoring and adaptive control, also known as CMAC. We received 1 bid for it. That bid came from Opti RTC Inc. as follows. The CMAC implementation is $57,825. CMAC hardware is $38,425. CMAC software subscription annually is $6,500. Total cost was $102,750. The implementation and hardware costs are to be funded by the Center for Watershed Protection with their William Penn Foundation grant money. There's also a portion of the future construction bid which will be covered by the grant amount. The software subscription will become an annual operating cost in 2025 after being included in the capital total for 2024. Any questions from the board?
I might just add one. Are we familiar with the entity of the bid?
Yes,
Are you happy?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions from the public? That being said, I'd like to make a motion to award the Longview Drive Basin platform bid to Opti RTC Inc. in the amount of $102,750.
Second.
There's been a motion and second to approve the bid as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Next item N, review and consider certificate of appropriateness, application 23-05 of Jesse Bruce's 1730 Hillside Road, Southampton, PA 18966, who seeks permission to replace the lower portion of the existing freestanding sign located at 654 Red Line Road, Huntingdon Valley, PA 19006, to a sign of the same size, freestanding sign advertising Jesse Brucer hair, structure to the same. Attached is a picture of the sign below. You just can't see that, but I can.
Looks like a nice song.
Steve approved it. The board finds the order sign acceptable and recommends the issuance of certificate of appropriateness for Brucer hair. Does anybody have any questions from the board? Or the public? All right, so with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 23-05.
Second.
For the certificate of appropriateness,
Correct.
it has been motioned and second to recommend the issuance of the certificate of appropriateness as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Next item is N for Public Works. Kick it over to Steve.
Thank you very much. Pretty much whatever my reported on our budget presentation, and I thank you all again for allowing me that. Like I say, this highlight of my year. So a couple other things. Our pickleball courts are open. All 4 courts are up. All that's we have to wait to do the coding. Our contractor wanted us to sign a waiver in case something were to happen. Weather-wise, they can't be coded with the temperature, so we're gonna have them coated in the spring, but we were able to paint a temporary line, so cords are open. Same thing with the Pelicans. Leaf collections progressing, we're ahead of schedule, but we've probably been through the township now at least 3 times. So we'll continue going around, continue staying on schedule, and hopefully get them done before any snow. We had our lining projects, talked about that at the Capitol. So we lined the storm pipe at Buck Road. That was a great success. And then we did about 5,000 feet of sanitary line. So hopefully in the coming months, we're going to see a drastic decrease in our sanitary flows. That all you got.
Do we have any questions from Steve? Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Last item, Zoe, which is the Historic Architectural Review Board, which I touched on item N, and there's nothing else to report.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Pace, the chair, and I work as Commissioner House, Chair of the Public Property Committee.
This is a resolution in the local shares account grant, but basically what it is, we're looking to do some work on the Beth Ayres streetscape. And when I say Beth Ayres, I mean from, Chuck's, I don't know if you guys know, from Huntingdon, Pike and Welsh up to about where the end of Lower Moreland is. At least on the one side, not on the other, but basically to be well, sorry. And what we want to do is have smooth sidewalks, replace all the lighting, make it more pedestrian friendly, make it more business friendly. This has been a project that's been on the plate how long?
We did the feasibility study, I think that was finally issued like 2018 or 19, and that started several years before that.
Yeah.
And I think our original file here on this probably dates back to 1974.
There's a very brief description on the website if you want to look at it. But now we're finally getting to the point where we want to get the project evaluated and start planning. So we're going to apply for a grant to do the preliminary engineering, and development. I'm very excited about this, I have to admit. And the total cost of the project is going to be about $140,000. And that is the amount we have asked for in grant money from the state. Okay, we will not have to kick in anything at this moment if we're approved. So that's what this resolution is about. It's about getting applying for the grant, excuse me. But I have one question. One of the line items on here is horizontal design for improvements. What's a horizontal design?
I can take that one, Ruth. So when we're talking to PennDOT especially, things like the lane width, the location of crosswalks. So looking at the project in a 2-dimensional sphere as opposed to looking at the vertical alignments of the grade of the sidewalk or the grade of the road. And so the initial grant application really just focuses on, okay, guys, can we do this with this lane width, this kind of sidewalk, this space between the curb and the sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the buildings. So looking at the whole thing horizontally, if we are successful in the grant and we get to design the project, we'll need to look at, the grade and the vertical control as well. So horizontal is kind of the first phase, then the real hard nuts and bolts comes in the vertical design.
Okay, now I know. So does anybody have any questions from the board?
I think it's a great idea. I see students like zigzagging all over the place by that area all the time, coming down from like Bernathen area, so it's definitely a good idea. So say we're successful when we get the 140, who puts the actual cost of construction up?
Well, that is a whole different phase.
Right,
We'll actually have to do more,
grants for sidewalks and
Yeah.
whatever avenues we can get the
Yeah.
money from.
yes, and there are other avenues we can go to for the money. I've been emailing Chris for like 2 years. About different grant possibilities, none of them amounted to anything, but hey, I tried. But yes, there is actually, even before we go to that, we still have more design work to do. So even before we go to actual construction.
Right.
We still have more design work to do. Good question. Are there any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Okay. The grant application deadline is November 30th. And we will be going through our state senator, Maria Collette, and our state representative, Nancy Gantz. So now I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 23-26, authorizing the application for the local share account grant for the preliminary engineering drawings for the Beth Air Streetscape project and designate Christopher Hoffman and EJ Lee to execute all documents and agreements associated with the grant.
Second.
It has been motion and second to approve resolution number 23-26 as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
The Lower Moreland Township Authority doesn't meet again until January. And the Building Code Board of Appeals, as you heard, so that completes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Housen. The chair now recognizes Commissioner Odner, Chair of the Ordinance Committee.
Thank you. My first item is item R, review and consider traffic related ordinance. The ordinance amending the no parking restrictions on Ayersden Avenue was advertised as prescribed by law. Based on the traffic safety unit's recommendation, the attached ordinance will prohibit parking at all times on Ayersden's east side between Walton and Wynkoop and west side from Wynkoop Avenue south for 30 feet. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, I make a motion to approve ordinance number 773 as described.
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded to approve ordinance number 773 as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item S, review and consider zoning hearing board appointment. I unfortunately have to inform the board that zoning hearing board member Ted Millman has submitted his letter of resignation. But wait, I'm excited to inform the board this is because Ted has joined the township staff as a code enforcement officer. In upcoming agenda will include both Ted and Jill Mathias's appointments in several important roles, including zoning officer and building code official. What?
What's your name? You did butcher it.
Matthias.
That's it. Kill it.
No, I just think you did it right. Good job.
Oh, we've all been.
You yelled at this gallery over here. I even checked with this Chris to make sure I had it right, so. Anyway, for the zoning hearing board appointment, current alternate Tim Weir has offered to fill Ted's primary position. Given that Ted's appointment was coming due on January 4th, 2024, I'd recommend the board appoint Tim for a full 3-year term beginning January 5th, 2024 through January 4th, 2027. Any further comments from the board? Any comments or questions from the public? With that, I make a motion to approve resolution number 23-27, appointing Tim Weir to the zoning hearing board as described.
Second.
It has been motion to approve resolution number 23-27 as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Moving on to item T, review zoning hearing board agenda and decisions. There are 2 applications on the November zoning hearing board agenda. Application number 23-17, the application of Anatoly and Emma Bazilian of 1245 Needham Road, who seek a variance to permit a 25.9% lot coverage, of which 25% is permitted, to permit construction of a 404 square foot deck and covered area in the rear yard. The second is application number 23-18. The application of Andre Litvinsky and Maria Vestin of 573 Phillip Road, who seek a variance to permit a 49% lot coverage to permit large walking surfaces to assist an elderly occupant. There are 3 zoning hearing board decisions from the October meeting. Application number 23-12. The application of Claudiana and Blendar Salamage of 3255 Maple Road, who sought variances to reduce the side yard setback, reduce the rear yard setback, and exceed the lot coverage ratio to permit construction of a 387-foot detached garage. The variances were granted. The second was application number 23-15, the application of Jody and Donna Porter of 455 Pheasant Drive, who sought variances to exceed the permitted lot coverage to permit construction of an in-ground swimming pool and related improvements. The variance was granted with the additional conditions that the pool construction proceed in substantial conformance with the evidence presented at the hearing, and that the township engineer approve a grading and construction permit. Third was the application number 23-16, the application of Abby and Tina Matthew of 2659 Bonnie Lane, who sought variances to exceed fence height and opening requirements to permit installation of a 6-foot high fence in the front yard, which is not 50% open. The variances were granted with the conditions that the fence be in substantial conformance with the exhibits presented at the hearing, and that the township engineer determines the fence does not interfere with safe site distances along abutting roadways. Next is item U, my liaison report, which is the Pennypack Ecological Restoration Trust. As people may have heard, they are attempting to purchase the June Fate Fairgrounds, which would be,
I didn't know that. I didn't know.
yes. So they're doing a fundraiser. You hear me every month to tell people to join. If you don't want to join, you can at least donate to help them purchase that property. That would prevent it from ever being developed upon, which would be fantastic. And then as far as upcoming activities, on Saturday, December 16th at 10:30 is the Eco Mindfulness and Sweetgrass monthly 3-part series. It says, come join us this winter as we practice mindfulness and nature meditation together, along with the monthly book discussion of Robin Wall Kimmer's best-selling book, Braiding Sweetgrass: Indigenous Wisdom, Scientific Knowledge, and the Teachings of Plants. Unfortunately, my calendar is full that day, but I think I heard that Mr. McDade was anxious to attend that. So
I'll give you a report next week.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
You got it.
That's all that I have.
Would you like me to bring a sample back?
If you can, if not for everyone, would be great.
Bring it back in a jar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The chair now recognizes Commissioner Canali, Chair of the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Dr. Sargent. First item I have on my agenda for this evening is the Chief of Emergency Services vehicle. The original plan was for Chief Showmaker's vehicle was to purchase Chevy Tahoe, which would have been a 2024 lease purchase program option. However, an opportunity arose to purchase a 2023 Tahoe for $45,400, which will save several $1,000s both on MSRP and in comparison to a 2024 model. There will be a separate price to outfit the vehicle, but it will still result in the total cost much less than the $75,000 we were prepared for. Is there any discussion on the board on this? Anything from the public? I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of a Chevy Tahoe for Chief Showmaker as described above.
Second.
There's been a motion and second to approve the purchase as described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Great, that brings me to the public safety reports. First up, Chief Scarrato.
Did you say his name correctly?
I don't know, I've known that one for a little while. Yeah, awesome.
Proud today. All right. Well, first I'd like to thank you all for approving my contract. Appreciate that. I would also like to thank you for indulging me during the budget season. I really appreciate your support, and you should all know that, you know, from my knowledge of our region and speaking with leaders throughout the area, I know of no more supportive community or board of elected officials in the Philadelphia region. And you guys have shown that to this community and to me over the last 5 years. So I appreciate that continued support. So thank you all. All right, the report stuff. So over the last month, we have had a series of arrests related to disturbances and harassments in the region, including a simple assault, terroristic threat event arrest, and some road rage incidents. Due to the time of the year, I want to remind the public, this is the porch pirate time of the year. With the holidays coming up, people are going around stealing packages. It's going to be a significant uptick this year. So try to plan your deliveries if you can, track your packages, have someone pick them up and move them inside your house. That would help to alleviate that. We did have an attempted burglary on Clover in the middle of the month. Series of drug arrests, 6 over the last month, public intoxication, a number of DUIs. And looking forward, frauds have been fairly mild this month, so we're happy about that. We did have a fireworks complaint. I know we were talking about fireworks earlier. We did get a fireworks complaint earlier last month, and I also saw some video on social media, fireworks from yesterday. Incident updates, just an example of the forensic work in our police department and through our detective division. We had a burglary in July of 22. And in this case, officers responded to a residence report of a burglary along Welsh Road. The house was ransacked. Actors had broken in through a rear glass door. Total loss included high-end jewelry and cash. We processed the scene. We located a blood stain on the carpet, and through collecting that evidence, we've received forensic hits, and it's resulted in the arrest of 2 people. So warrants have been issued for those people. We had our first ever open house last month, which was a huge success. So I'm sure that's going to be coming back regularly after that. We appreciate everyone's support. The best was the township manager wearing full SWAT gear. It was quite impressive.
I've been in physical therapy.
We do appreciate him joining us and trying on the equipment. Also, Sergeant Julia Huddick and our civilian staff, evidence technician, Greta Hopkins, attended the 3-day symposium on Pennsylvania Crime Prevention Officers Association. So they brought back just more opportunities for us. They spearhead our social media program, and we're looking at many, many more ways to serve our community and have a better, even larger community footprint if that's possible. 1,600 calls for service last month, 88 medical calls, 27 fire calls. Fire chief will get into that, and 58 traffic accidents. Does anyone have any questions?
Chief, you should be really adding a line item about the dogs every month.
I was actually thinking of for next month, we're gonna have a little report on the work that they're doing, how much work they've done, the good work that they've accomplished. So we will start with that next month. I can also say that as of this month, we still have been able to fully fund that through grants and for over almost 3 years. So it's pretty amazing. So I appreciate everyone's support. Nothing else?
Any questions?
Yeah, one more.
Sure.
I noticed your overtime percentage is above the position where you are in the year.
Correct.
Okay, so, and you had mentioned before that some of the overtime could be reimbursable because it goes to other townships or municipalities.
Correct.
Do you have an idea as to how much of that will be offset?
So I did ask EJ to pull some numbers for me earlier.
No wonder she gave me 3.
No, actually, October was a particularly busy month with a lot of, it's usually the school district, they had a lot of events, football games and homecoming and such, and we are at, it's about $4,000 that we've invoiced other outside agencies for overtime services. And if we were to recoup all of that, and they usually do get recouped pretty quickly, the overtime percentage would actually drop closer to about 88% versus the 92% that's in there right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much. for
You're welcome.
answering
In addition, we do
both of you.
not only contracted overtime, like through the school district, we also have several grants for traffic safety. They do regular enforcements. We're part of the Eastern Montgomery County DUI Task Force, so we run details for that, and all that money eventually comes back to the township.
Thank you.
Anything from the public? No, thanks, Chief. Fire Marshal Shaw.
Evenings. Under emergency management, Rich Worthington, some of the Lower Moreland school officials and myself, we did a walk through the new high school, started planning for the evacuation and the fire alarm drills. Rich is going to be working on the new maps, and once those are completed, we'll be using them for the final inspection and be given out to the first responders and to the local fire companies that are responding to the high school. During the month, I assisted Lieutenant Smith with the funeral arrangements for the Philadelphia police officer who was killed down the airport. I made calls with the local schools to let them know that the traffic would be backed up a little bit, even though it's at the lower end of the township, and they were very appreciative of that. Under Montgomery County Health and Emergency Management, the hazmat vehicle is in service. It's currently stored in the Upper Dublin Station. If anybody would like to see it or get a tour of it, just let me know, and I can take care of that. The USAR team, the Urban Search and Rescue, which is another specialty team in Montgomery County. They placed an order for a new rescue truck, and both teams have been very busy this year in 2023. We've been in ongoing talks with Lower Moreland High School between myself, Rich Worthington, and Justin Brommer with it's called a bi-directional amplifier. It's called short of BDA. What this does is that we have no radio communications within the school. So they had the school district brought in a specialist to come in. We did numerous radio frequency checks and walkie-talkie checks. And it was found that the communication was we could not talk to the outside or within the building. So they are working with a system to get the bi-directional amplifier installed, which will hopefully also help the high school's radio frequency and their walkie-talkies, and also hopefully the cell phone. So part of the UNO will be, we will have a major final inspection with that, and we'll bring the guys from the police and fire back over, and we'll do another radio check on all the floors. So but the school district has been very supportive of that and working together with that. Working with the Philmont Country Club and the upcoming road closures, we just put out, and I just gave the police and fire a new updated email today. It's been pushed back a little bit, so we're going to work with that on getting that taken care of. Just on a side note, part of the hazmat team, I did respond to that tractor trailer or the jet fuel fire up in the turnpike during the month that unfortunately 3 people have passed away. And I'm also starting, hopefully at the end of the month, the bomb arson tracking system. It's called the BATS program, through the ATF. And I'm looking to join that in the web-based case management tracking system. This is going to be nationally known. I went to the bomb squad headquarters for a meeting and met the ATF agent in charge of it. And hopefully we can start, less fires, the better. But any kind of fires or any kind of arson investigations or any kind of suspicious fires, we can add it to this tracking system. And we can also look at the surrounding community and the surrounding townships if they're having the same issues that we are. It's about an hour, 2 hours to get it all worked in, to get the finalization and the paperwork finalized, and then hopefully we'll be on the system.
Any questions from the board?
I'm sorry, guys, I know you tried to turn me, but in your report, you said we noticed that there were a couple calls for the elevator at Crescent Fields. Have they fixed them?
Yes.
Okay.
There was some of the residents were actually pushing the button by accident, or maybe a walker or a device was actually pushing the button. So now we have a sort of a delay in the call. If the call comes out, it will go to the front desk or to the person on charge. And if there is someone in there, then we will be responding. Knock wood, we haven't had any calls since then, since we've implemented that program, so far so
So
good.
basically, so there weren't any problems.
We had one vehicle rescue, we had one elevator rescue, we had 3 people trapped in the elevator, that was due to a malfunction in the elevator,
Okay,
yeah.
and the other things were just people
They're just-
accidentally pressing the emergency.
Or they
door,
were bumping into it,
Stop button.
And that
correct.
comes directly to you.
It goes to the alarm company, but then
Okay.
dispatches the fire company. Now we've kind of put just a little bit of delay in that, so they know somebody's in there, we're still gonna get fire and EMS. But it's cut the false alarms down to a minimum.
Great, thank you so much.
Anything from the public? Thank you, Fire Marshal, Chief Showmaker. Your first report over here.
You have to see if you can tap into that natural reverb that Bob's voice had. Or I have a question on the other person.
It's just, you
You're gonna do?
Good evening, everyone. I assume in front of you, you have a copy of my report. My report's a little bit different because I report to 2 different municipalities, so we're gonna do one report that's the same report for both. That way you get to see what each of the group's doing. Hopefully that'll be a benefit to us, and I will highlight that at the end with some statistics on some calls. A 90-mile look down at the calls, not a detailed look at the calls. As you can see here, I'm pretty busy through the first month. When I was brought onto this position, part of my interview, I proposed a 30, 60, 90-day plan that I would follow when I came on, and that's actually what we're using as a roadmap. I'm a little bit ahead of that, which is nice. So as you can see, I met with both chairs and township managers for the borough and Moreland Township. We discussed a number of items, set forth what my role was going to be for sure. And we picked up and moved on from there. Fire Marshal Shali was kind enough to take me out and take a look at some of the building stock that's in the community, as well as the Brenathan folks did it as well. Part of that ties into reviewing the building stock with the ladder truck that is being talked about for our purchase in the near future. That's giving me a chance to see what's there. I'm trying to make some assessments. I had a chance to review the specifications that were received prior to me being employed here. I had a great opportunity to meet with the truck committee last week. We spent a lot of time, thought it was going to be a short half-hour meeting. I think we spent somewhere in the area of about 2.5, 3 hours sitting down and discussing the possibilities. And I'm happy to report that we're going to be bringing another truck in to take a look at on December the 2nd. We're going to bring in, it's a little bit different setup from what was here prior to that, just to give everybody a little bit of a different flavor for what's available. Might be a beneficial truck for us to really look at and maybe see what the capabilities of that is as compared to what we looked at prior. So I'm really looking forward to that. That was a really positive meeting. I've spent a lot of time meeting with both organizations, the membership of both organizations, the employees of some of the 2 groups. Spent a lot of time with the SHIP program, talking with Mike Mulder, who's running the SHIP program for the fire company, trying to get the ins and outs of how that works and operates. A couple hiccups that we looked at, we were able to correct and take care of. So we've been doing a lot of work with that group during the daytime, which is nice. I also attended the joint emergency management meeting between Lower Moreland and Brenathan, as well as attended that afternoon the county emergency management meeting. Had an opportunity to meet with our mutual aid partners from Upper Moreland Township and our Bucks County partners as well, trying to get the capabilities of what's available to us. Still need to meet with some of the others down on the Abington side. I haven't had that chance to do that yet. And also we've had the opportunity, along with the code enforcement folks and the fire marshal, to walk through the new high school and get familiar with that. We've actually, I've heard, done a lot of budget work. We've been looking at a lot of different requests that came in, worked out some of what we think is reasonable expenditures that we supported in the proposal, which you looked at tonight. And lastly, I had a chance to sit with the emergency management or emergency services committee to discuss what the future possibly will bring with this program that we're looking at. There's been a couple of items that we were looking to get more clarification for. I think some of it's going to the solicitors for some opinions, and we'll see what comes back from that. And at the end there, you'll see that I've included both Brenathan ambulance, fire company, and Huntingdon Valley Fire Company statistics. I'm only going to give you the Huntingdon Valley here. You can read the others. But for Huntingdon Valley Fire calls in Lower Moreland Township, there was 37 calls for the month of October. Fire calls in Brent Athen from Huntingdon Valley Fire Company, 2. And outside other calls from the Huntingdon Valley Fire Company, 4, for a year-to-date total of 344 fire responses. And if you allow me, just real quickly, want to read a letter that was received from a township resident. This was addressed to the Brent Athen Fire Company ambulance. I'm going to leave some of the information out of it because of HIPAA reasons and other regulated or regulatory requirements, but that's a handwritten letter, so you have to bear with me. Since my name is so-and-so, 18 months ago, you folks saved my life. While painting my house on 4/29/22, I stepped off my porch roof and broke my pelvis. Your team showed up immediately, figured out what was wrong, and secured me with a pelvic binder. This quick action by your team literally saved my life. The doctors at Abington Hospital informed me that without this immediate use of this pelvic binder, I surely would have died. It took the surgeons hours to stop my internal bleeding. Only then could the orthopedic team install the hardware to keep my, quote, open book pelvic fracture intact. I enclosed a copy of the x-ray, which I'm not going to show you, to show you the extent of the bone damage. I did this to myself for my fall. I'm forever grateful for your service and the team who came that day to save my life. And sincerely, the owner. The 2 folks that were on duty that day were paramedic firefighter Kevin Gordon and EMT firefighter Kevin Sorosky. I've had a chance to meet with one of them so far. The second hasn't been on shift yet because he's on vacation. I'm going to sit down and talk with him. But this is a testament to the pre-hospital or pre-hospital practitioner care that these folks provide to the residents, not only of Brent Athen, but obviously Lower Moreland Township. They're well trained. They really care about what happens, and they're quick thinking using this device, which is not used very often. In fact, I think they've used it once. Made a big difference here. So it's important that you hear these kind of things because we're here coming to you for money, but this is what it's all about. This is why we come to you for the money. This is save somebody's life. It doesn't get any better than that. And that concludes what I have.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any of the commissioners? From the public? Thank you very much. Okay. That takes me to my next, well, I'm gonna go out of order. I'm gonna go to the consideration from the Huntingdon Valley Library event request. The Huntingdon Valley Library will be hosting an open house for its 70th anniversary on Friday, December 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. They're requesting permission to provide wine and beer from local providers at the event. Previously, the board has authorized wine to be served at the event several years ago. Is there any questions on this from the board?
Can we go?
Yes, please attend and donate. Library will love it.
I already RSVP'd.
Yes.
Do we have any exposure or are we just normal stuff?
I don't see it as an issue.
Yeah, good.
They've had events before where we could
Yeah, I
put wine and
think
beer.
both, yeah.
Do we know who's gonna be serving it? Does they have a company coming in?
I think they have different trucks and local vendors, but I'm not.
I think the wine is from right across the street. I forget the name of the,
It's sunlight.
The new one.
Oh, the someone.
and then I think the brewery is maybe one of the selling.
Mosses Mills,
Awesome.
Okay.
something like that.
Cool.
Is what I heard.
Okay.
Very nice.
Anything from the public on this? No, I'd like to make a motion to approve the serving of wine and beer at the upcoming anniversary event.
Second.
The motion to second to approve the library event is described. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Next up are my liaison reports. First is HVAA. Basketball season will be kicking off. Get in for registration before it's too late, which I think it actually is relatively quick.
Travel's gone in-house, you can still register.
Yeah, for another week or two.
Yeah.
So get on that if you're gonna be doing it. Looking forward to the winter season with that. And then that takes me to the library report, as we just discussed, 70th anniversary party. Coming up on December the 1st, 6 to 8 p.m. Be there, it's gonna be a great event. There's a ton of information on the library website. Check it out for all the upcoming events. That's all I have. Back to you, Doc.
Thank you, Commissioner Canal. That completes our published agenda items. Is there any public participation for non-agenda items? Okay, there's one hand up on Zoom.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, Cindy's good.
Okay. Yes, this is Shannon Lindsay, 235 Pepper Road. I'm just curious, is there going to be a porta potty at the pickleball courts?
Order. It's order.
Yes, it's ordered. Our Public Works Director said it's ordered.
We lost her.
Yeah, she's already on.
So,
She's on mute again.
Oh,
We don't need
okay, that's it. She heard. I think.
John, if you could hear us, our Public Works Director, Steve Warner, said it is ordered, the Board of
Handicap? Yes.
Any other public comment?
It works.
I want to thank everybody for attending tonight. I want to invite everybody at next month's meeting to partake in some refreshments as I thank the public, the staff and the board for allowing me to serve for the last 12 years. So I hope you'll be able to attend next month at the end. And I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Doc, I look forward to my sweet